Compost is the backbone of your soil. It is the nutrient-rich matter that we add to our garden to make our plants healthy. These compost bins are extra large because we make compost in large amounts, but the best size for the home gardener is a metre square. You need this size so it can build up heat in the centre and cook your compost. And the reason we need 2 or even 3 bins is to have somewhere to turn the decomposing compost into. Aerating the compost pile is an important step in the process. When making hot compost, you need 3 ingredients: nitrogen, carbon and the activators. With your nitrogen and your carbon, you want a ratio of about 30 carbon to 1 nitrogen. This sounds confusing, but it's really not that difficult. We'll explain later. The first barrel here is a good nitrogen source. These are grass clippings. But basically any nitrogen source are your green material. They can be spent weeds, old vegetables and kitchen scraps. The second barrel here is full of carbon source. These are old sunflower stalks, old spent weeds and old corn. The third barrel here, we've got a lot of weeds. These weeds are important because they're good compost activators, and we'll explain about those as we make the compost bin. All compost material contains both carbon and nitrogen in different sources. As a general rule, the green fresh leaves have a high nitrogen content and your brown material is more carbon. That is not always the case. Here we have chicken poo, which is a great nitrogen source, as with any animal manure. Same as with blood and bone, sheep pellets or cow or horse poo. These are great carbon sources. In this one we have some good straw. We have some air cartons, which are fantastic in the compost bin. They have air pockets which allow the bacteria and fungi to survive. Another option is newspaper. This is great in your compost bin, but never lay it flat. They should always be rolled up into balls. Here we have a few more activators for your compost bin. The first one is coffee grounds. This bucket contains volcanic basalt rock mixed with seaweed and worm castings, and is a fantastic activator because it is full of minerals and is impregnated with bacteria and fungi. The third bucket here has wood ash. Although it's great for your compost bin, fresh ash from your fire is really alkaline and can destroy your compost bin. Any alkaline products like lime and fresh ash are not good to add to a live compost bin. We make compost about once a month, so we have to set up a storage system for our waste. We have piles of carbon and piles of nitrogen. If you think this looks messy or will attract nesting rodents, try using black bins with lids and wire mesh underneath. What we've been calling the nitrogen heap is actually a biomass heap, which is made up of old kitchen scraps, weeds in the garden and old vegetables. The biomass is what bulks up the compost bin and makes a good source of compost. If I only layered the carbon and nitrogen sources, it would be very hard to make a tall compost bin. The first thing to do when starting a compost bin is to aerate the soil underneath. A fork is good for this, and it just puts oxygen into the soil and helps the earthworms. We're going to put a layer of carbon down first. The next layer is a nitrogen source. When using the grass clippings, be careful you don't lay it too thickly because it can cause an anaerobic reaction and your compost bin will smell like sulfur. Egg cartons full of carbon follow the layers of nitrogen, on top of which we add some of our biomass. Next, we're going to add some activators. These include a wide range of plants that will help the compost break down quickly and add beneficial nutrients to the soil. In the barrel we've got things like borage and stinging nettle. Other good activators include things like yarrow, tansy and chamomile. Onto the weeds we add more activators, which are volcanic rock dust, seaweed and blood and bone. Next, we're going to add some soil from the garden and some compost from a previous compost bin. This compost and soil are full of bacteria, fungi and microbes which will help break down your compost. Then we start repeating the process. Carbon followed by biomass and the activators. You might be wondering how we're achieving the 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. But things like newspaper and air cartons are 100 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. Straw and sawdust is 500 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. So all up it balances to be about a 30 to 1 ratio. The last thing we're going to add to the compost bin is some more soil from your garden or from your compost bin. And then finally watering. Watering is extremely important for your compost bin. A dry compost bin will not break down. Now that we've finished watering the bin, we can cover it with a piece of tarpaulin. Over the next 48 hours, the temperature inside the compost bin should raise to about 70 degrees. Within a week, it should have broken down at least by half, and then within 2 weeks, it'll be by a third. After that period, we can turn it once, and after a 3-week period, it'll be ready to use. If it's not 70 degrees, you need to do one of two things. You need to add some more water, or you need to add another activator. Things like chicken poo, cow or horse manure, they'll help build it up, even green grass clippings. This compost bin is now done. It's broken down into a lovely black compost. Amazing, isn't it?